週間経ちましたが、敵陣の奥深くにいて、彼らはまだ何も疑わない。
Hey! Alright, boys, you got the intruder. Now it's time for some interrogation. Who sent you?
Hi.
Okay, so today we have a special guest, Joey from Mart.
Hi.
If you guys saw our giveaway, he helped sponsor the merch for that, along with Baby Chan. And we're gonna be working on this K24 build for him. What is it for exactly?
It is for my 2000 Honda Civic hatchback.
Nice. So we got this motor from the junkyard, so we need to inspect it and see if it's all good to go or if it's not.
The guide that we are using to put this engine into the car is the Budget K-Series guide made by Brian over at VTech Academy. So go check it out if you want to follow along with our build.
Okay, so we're gonna take all the covers off first. Doctor.
Technically, I'd be the nurse, I believe. You'd be the surgeon.
Get the harness off.
I love that sound. Are we taking the whole harness off or just enough to take the valve cover and head off?
The whole thing.
So I remember originally we were going to stay true to the guide by pulling in a cord motor, but conveniently enough, after scouring OfferUp and Facebook Marketplace, Red actually ended up finding this JDM K24A on OfferUp for a very, very suspiciously good price. Yeah. So as you can see, it's actually an RBB2 head.
Yeah, it was posted for like $600, but the ad was a few months old.
Sorry.
So I messaged the guy and see if he still had it, and yeah, he luckily still did, and he lived not too far from here, so we went to go check it out. And I thought I examined everything and took the oil pan off, spun it around a few times, checked for glitter, debris of any sort. Everything looked really clean. It spun really smoothly, easily, and the inside looked pretty clean, little tarnished, but you know, what you'd expect for like 60,000 miles. And yeah, so we took it home, offered him like $450.
About that.
And yeah, we thought we got a good deal until I got home and then started checking on it a little deeper the next day. And it was not all that great. And we'll show you what I mean right now. All right, so the next day I took the valve cover off and checked in here, and it looks good at first glance. But if you look a little closer,
that's just a VTech, it's fine.
That is not how VTech works.
Fine.
Yeah, so this one in particular, the lobes are facing up, so there's no tension on the valves at all, and yet there's still a significant amount of play in the rockers. So that points to our valves being stuck open, most likely from an event where they met the piston. So
yay.
We need to get this apart, or at least the head off, and see what the damage is.
Should we take the injector plugs off?
Yeah.
I love that popping sound. And that's how you take a harness off. Yay.
One thing I noticed is Honda's pretty smart with their bolts, like something like this. Nissan wouldn't do this. They wouldn't care. They'll just make the bolt this short and let you deal with getting it out from behind the starter. Whereas Honda makes it a little longer so you can get a regular ratchet on it and be able to get it out easily.
So you're saying Honda's better than Nissan?
I didn't say those words.
Look at those engines back there and tell them that they're not as good as a Honda engine.
Which one makes more power though?
Stock or modded?
Stock.
None of them since they're not in a car. Right here.
Here's the baby. Okay, that's staying there. And here we have our VTEC solenoid. Yeah. So it makes all the lawnmower noises.
I still can't decide if a trumpet sounds better than a lawnmower or a lawnmower sounds better than a trumpet.
Hey, a trumpet is a legitimate musical instrument. We need to kill this fly, seriously.
Yes, I know, it keeps getting on me. Where?
It's on your mic.
That hurt. Right here. I'm ready, senpai.
Oh, man. All right, now we gotta get the damper off.
Sorry, it just flew into my face. What an asshole. We just take that damper off.
Yes. So usually you'd have to get this specialty tool to put some tension against the damper itself, and then use a breaker bar or an enormous impact gun apparently, because mine was not strong enough to take this off, and leverage it off. But I already did that, so just zap it off real quick. Yeah, that was the most difficult bolt to get off this thing. Almost broke the breaker bar.
That was my breaker bar.
I was jumping on mine, yours was holding the...
Oh, was it really?
And do not lose this little key thingy. And now it's just a bazillion 10mm bolts to get the cover off.
You want to flip the engine around?
No, it should still be fine.
Okay.
This should be the VTC solenoid, I think. So right off the bat, first thing you can see is that the trigger wheel for the crank is broken. I do not understand how that happens. So this is supposed to have a little like square protrusion that slots into the crank, and that's just straight broken off. Which is strange because the key was still fine and the damper itself didn't have any damage on it. And actually I already got the replacement for this, so you can see what the not damaged example looks like compared to what's in the motor. So I just sheared off the little locating pin right there. Which, that's pretty strange. I mean, I don't know, you think this could happen from like banging it off the rev limiter and then the engine lost timing because of this, and that's what bent the valves?
I have no idea. I've never actually seen anything like that before.
Right, me neither. Like, I don't know if this was like secondary damage because of the valves, or if this is the root cause of the valves being bent, but...
I don't know, man, I drive an Infinity.
So yeah, first bit of concerning evidence. Another thing that can happen is that the tensioner fails, and thus letting the chain have too much slack in it, which lets the chain jump on the gears, therefore causing your valves to come into contact with your piston. But all the teeth on the tensioner look fine. Like, it doesn't seem like there's any evidence of this being damaged. So again, still unsure as to why it's broken. But let's keep digging. Oh, looks fine.
shiny.
I think Drag Cartel makes like a beefier one of that or something.
Oh, really?
Like they make one with this tool steel pin
Oh.
instead of whatever that's made of. Now we should be able to get our chain off. And there goes our cans. So this is another thing that can happen is if your chain is stretched, then the tensioner won't have enough adjustment to make up for all the slack. And I also got a chain from a low mileage K24 at the junkyard, so we can compare that.
Was it off the TSX
Yeah.
one? Because I remember, long story short, originally we found a TSX in the junkyard, and Red spent like 85% of his time getting it Red spent like most of his time till the junkyard closed getting it like 85% of the way out.
Yeah.
And then when he came back the next day, all the fruits of his labor
Yeah.
were
Did
just,
all that work for someone else.
yep. But luckily, they did leave the chain and block pretty much untouched.
Yeah. Okay, so put a zip tie on the old chain just so we don't get them mixed up. But so I should do this with the wrench or something.
Watch, the new chain is more stretched out.
Yeah, watch. So old chain on my left, your right. Yeah, they're about the same. Also, I'm trying to hold it level, but I mean, maybe slightly stretched, if anything. They're about the same. So that's probably not the cause of the valve damage. But still, probably don't want to reuse the old one.
That looks like a rib bone. So pretty.
That's what I don't understand. So like, a 240SX has a Ka24. It's 4-cylinder, 2.4 liter engine. This is a 4-cylinder, 2.4 liter engine. Like, I find it amazing that like, even though they're the same dimensionally, this can make like 500 horsepower at the high end.
Yeah, I mean, it's also like a much more better flowing head too.
Yeah, like just that design aspect of it can have that much of an effect, whereas the Ka24 from Nissan is lucky to hit 200.
I mean, tractors don't need that much power anyways.
Pum. Merry Christmas.
Oh, thank you.
I also think it's interesting that these have like a separate, like a completely separate oil pump, as opposed to Nissans that have it like built into the timing cover, basically. The only Nissan I've seen that does this is the VH45. It had like a whole separate oil pump that ran off the crank with the chain, just like this. Hondas make weird noises.
Why are the bolts in pain? What are you doing?
Interrogation.
Actually, looks like it's not. There you go.
Such a gentleman. Okay. So that way they don't get mixed up, because I know from taking that apart at the junkyard that all those little bits will just fall everywhere and scatter all over the place. So it's better to keep it all in one piece. Now, a little more sludgy.
Yeah, right there. All little channels.
It's weird. Little baby springs. I don't know, this kind of seems like a little more than 60,000 miles worth of sludge.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we can pretty much start trying to take the head off. So you need a, where'd it go? A 12-point 14mm socket to get the head bolts off.
I hate this because it says 10. Who does that?
Maybe the thread is a 10.
Oh, that makes sense.
Okay, so as far as we know, this wasn't overheated, so the head should still be flat. And in order to not mess that up, you want to remove the head in the same order that it was tightened from the factory, which is usually going to be like a crisscross pattern from the center out. So to remove it, you want to do the opposite of that and work from the outside in, just alternating from left to right and up and down. Sounds complicated, but you'll see what I mean. So we'll start with this guy, and you're probably gonna have to hold the block from moving around. Okay, so top right corner. Bottom left corner. Bottom right corner. Top left.
Bolt breaking is one of the most satisfying sounds ever.
Right?
Unless it breaks.
Yeah. This like actually breaks. All right, so they're all cracked loose now. Notice I didn't loosen them entirely. If you can, you want to try and do that in steps, not just like completely loosen it all the way, because that kind of increases the risk of you warping the head. So that's like step one. And then from here, we can just go ahead and zap them all off.
Do they need to stay in the...
Are you gonna get head studs, or do you want to reuse these?
I might as well get head studs.
Okay. So if you were gonna reuse your head bolts, keep in mind most head bolts are torque to yield. So basically that means that you stretch them
Let me
a
check
certain.
the price first. Hold on. Hold on. Fine, I'll get head studs.
Okay. So if you're gonna try and reuse your head bolts, you can typically get away with it, but probably only one time. So if you know your engine's been apart more than one time before, I wouldn't risk trying to reuse the head studs. If you know that the engine is original and never been messed with, you could get away with it one time at least, or at most, I would say. If not, just get new head bolts or head studs. If you can, head studs are better because they're not torque to yield and they can take more clamping force. So in this case, we're not gonna keep track of where they went. But if you were, you would put them, what I like to do is put them in a cardboard box, or actually, I have something very specific that I made a really long time ago specifically for this. Be right back. All right, so I made this a really long time ago when I had my...
Sorry. So Red made this random block a while ago to put these random studs in the correct order that they were in as you pulled them out. How ingenious is that? Red, please explain to them your thought process behind this.
I was bored. So I made this for my RB when I had to do the head gasket on a long time ago on it. And basically cylinder 1. And I don't know why I made 7. I think it's just because there was too much room and I added an extra cylinder. But yeah, so cylinder 1, just put your corresponding bolts in there. And 2. Oh no, I did 7 because that's how many rows there is on an RB.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because there's one on each end and then one in the middle. So like this one, there's 4 cylinders, so it'd be 5 rows.
So this is just like an RB, just 2 less cylinders.
No. Ta-da. So just put that on your shelf for the couple of weeks to a couple of years that your engine is apart and not in your car. And they'll be in the exact same order that you took them out. Okay, so right now all the valves should be closed. Since there's no tension on them, there's no cams or anything in the way, they should all be in their closed position. Is there a bolt that I missed or something?
There you go.
Eesh.
Oh, the dowel thing. Ew, that's gross.
Ew.
Here, save this, we can use this.
Okay, so now you can clearly see that the valves are not closed. And this, honestly, like as far as bent valves go, this is very minimal. Like I've seen way worse than this. And this is probably due to the electronics and stuff involved with modern engines. So like I said, as soon as the ECU sees a variance between the crank angles and the crank angle and the cam angles, it'll immediately cut ignition, fuel, everything to try and like save it. And that's pretty much the evidence. It's a very, very slight bend. So pretty much no damage to anything else. Whereas if you didn't have that kind of technology, the engine could keep going. And I've seen this particularly on that engine. The valve will break off and just get beat around in the cylinder until the engine runs out of inertia, or if there's a couple cylinders still actually running, till you turn it off. So that's the benefit here.
All right, so it looks like you have the head all diagnosed. What are the next steps after this, senpai? Oni-chan?
Well, anyway.
Can I say Oni-chan?
Oh.
Not like Oni-chan, but Oni-chan.
We have a very strict cringe threshold here, Joey.
Okay, I'm good.
This is a kid-friendly show, Joey.
What kid's gonna build a K24? Let's be honest.
Some kid. We need to get the valves replaced, first and foremost, and then probably get a valve job because the valve seat's probably beat up from that. And then while we're at it, probably resurface the head to get a good mating surface since we're already here and we don't want to put everything back together and have it leak or something. And then we can put everything else back together and hopefully make some lawnmower noises.
Nice. So are they also gonna like run it through the parts washer, get all the sludge out of there so it's like a nice, crispy, shiny?
Yeah, so this thing's gonna get a nice trip to the onsen and come back like a brand new piece of kit.
Nice, I can't wait to see the onsen episode.
And on that note, see you guys next week.
And if you guys are curious, we are following the budget K-swap made over. The guide that we're using to swap this engine into the car is the, god damn it, that was a good one. This is gonna be like a 9-hour filming session. So the guide that we are using to, hold on one second.
Yeah, this is a lot harder than you
It
think.
is, no, it's always been this way. Okay, so.
It's my line.
Oh, sorry. The guide that we are using to put this in, the guide that we are using to, why is it so freaking hard? The guide, okay, this guide that we are using.
Make sure you get 100% good mating surface when you put it back together.
Sorry.
What?
No, you just said the word mating, you know? So,
Focus.
got a Honda in a Nissan shop.
We're never gonna finish.
Like in the intro, with like, All right, Oni-chan.
And yeah.
It's like I'm sweating just trying to chase a fly around. Yeah. Now it's on the lens. We got a Honda and a Nissan shop.